happen in this one. I think a lot of blunders await us, with the time format that's there right now, the position blowing up. I think you can completely ignore the evaluation bar. That pawn coming on to c3. I mean, c4 was definitely for the score by Hans Niemann. He's perhaps ambitious about his chances as well here. Now a big decision. Do you keep the tension? Do you block it with c3? David, whoa. That was not something that I was expecting, because this gives a lot of additional options to white. Or do you anyway go knight takes knight? I was also thinking about f takes e5 here.
Yeah, f takes e5 looks tempting. Even d takes e5, there's something to say for it if the white knight gets to d4 later. Okay, he plays the kind of natural move. Knight takes e5. That white knight is a beast. It's going to be hard to remove.
And the reason for that is the bishop, the light squared bishop, right? You just can't challenge it. Hans's pieces are sort of coming in their own way. Look at the two rooks. Look at the bishop on g8. What even is the knight on b8 doing right now? And we see the bar. David, is there a knockout move right now? Because queen c7, a big mistake.
Wow, apparently there's lots of strong moves for white. I don't understand queen c7 even slightly, I must admit, unless like he wants to play c3, but he could have played c3 last move. It's like a very important use of time. Maybe he's trying to vacate the d6 square for the black knight. Maybe that's the only rationale I can come up with. But yeah, Ding plays a decent move, not the best. Apparently, again, stopping the opponent from castling is so important. Knight to g6. He could have just forced the black rook onto a square. It's just trapped. It cannot move. And even if you go back with the knight later, black's never going to castle to the long side, at least. And here we see this was Hans's plan. He gave a check. Now his knight is coming. But again, does Ding Liren insert the move knight to g6 just to make this black rook feel embarrassed?
Just want to say there's a threefold repetition with knight g6, knight f8, knight g6, knight f8. Not going to happen, but it's in the air. Ding brings his bishop out, but he had to do that anyway, right now, because now for Hans Niemann, he can put his rook on a much better square than h7 if you jump in with a knight to g6.
Yeah, I'm very quickly going to put this on the board. Ding with a couple of missed opportunities, according to the computer. Not easy in human terms, of course, with no time on the clock. But I think we can all see that this black rook is just silly, dominated by the white knight. Maybe you get it out later by kicking the white knight away, then bringing it back. But black loses so much time, loses castling rights, very importantly. And instead, we see the live position. Ding hasn't moved. And Ding has to kind of recce with the black king going the whole way across a bit later. Maybe not now, but later in the game. Hans is going for the white king in the meantime. This is chaos suddenly, Tanya.
I mean, this just looks like you're playing with fire right now, right? Your king is still on b8, opening up those lines, but asking a big decision. Because if you don't do streamer's favorite move, if there's no en passant that happens, which has its own consequences, black can double down on that c3 pawn. There's always the move b4, really creating a stronghold with c3. And look at that, the king goes all the way across. Now no danger for Hans Niemann's king. David, I have a feeling this is turning around.
Feels that way. I think Ding's idea is to play b4. There's no other reason you would put your rook on a square it can be attacked. I think his idea is to play b4 to attack this c3 pawn. There we go. And it's just weird. It's like white's dominating the dark squares, black's controlling all the light squares. Neither king feeling safe, but neither king can be got at right now. Ooh, unless he's setting up some sacrifices here, Tanya. But Hans says no sacrifices for you. Knight for bishop trade. I agree, it's turning. It just feels weird with white's rooks disconnected so badly.
And the thing is, if you try to get rid of this monstrous knight, you're opening up a monstrous bishop, right? Black can recapture with the d pawn, giving a clear diagonal to that bishop and eventually some squares with which the queen can penetrate through the light squares as well, landing on d5 at the right time. If you allow the knight to stay there, how are you ever going to attack? How are you ever going to create threats? Rook g6 is a move, but it can be met by either rook f6 or the bishop even falling back to f7.
Yeah, white's just playing without his queen. Like Ding's queen hasn't got active. Should have been active very much so earlier. The white rook on a3, I really kind of struggled to see a life for that one. Maybe Ding later is going to have to play like king d1, king e2, get the rook out via the first rank, but that's so time consuming.
It just suddenly feels like the rook is totally disconnected, right? That rook on a3. It was such a power piece a few moves ago, landing on a4, looking at some rook lifts, a rook slant, eyeing the black king. But David, it all comes down to those moments when Ding could have taken away this possibility of the black king getting to the right side of the board. And now suddenly Hans, but what about the clock? Ding under 1 minute as well. All right, we see the trade.
Ooh, big threats. Ding is running. He's running. He has to get his king to the king side now, to the right flank. Not the wrong flank, the right flank here. He needs to run away. And yeah, maybe he's just about clinging on. Maybe.
But he's clinging on right now. But with 40 seconds on the clock, can you cling on for the next 10 moves is the big question. And you already start feeling like it was working, it was going so well, and it's just slipping out of your hands. Now, if black was to bring on the attack to the b4 pawn, this king on d1 defends the queen on e1, so maybe you're just in time to pick up the pawn on c3, and that's the point as well.
Yeah, and then trade-off rook, trade-off queens. If the queens come off, white is doing very, very well. It's only the black queen that can ever break this dark square blockade. So here we go. It is the white king. He can always use the white queen to defend the b4 pawn. Maybe he's got a fortress here, Ding. I don't really see how black is getting through either. Unless later on there's like an exchange sacrifice, maybe one of the black rooks giving itself up for the white knight because it is so strong, covers all the entry squares. But Ding's done a good job the last few moves of consolidating. It just looks very blocked now, Tanya.
I agree, and that is a stunning knight. If all the majors come off the board, then I think that knight will have more targets to get to, right? He's also placed all his pawns Ding has on the dark squares. By the way, we're seeing this line being played out. Rook takes pawn, queen takes pawn. There are ideas of rook takes rook now, that the white king supports the queen on e1, and more trades about to happen. You can't throw in a knight takes bishop because the rook on c3 was hanging. We're seeing this line being played out. And how are we evaluating these trades, this endgame now?
I see the bar prefers black. Like visually, first sight, I like white, but maybe black's just in time. Like b3 is a big threat. Ooh, wait, b3? And then the black rook's coming in. Maybe you should have traded off knight for bishop there. Ding Liren. Suddenly the black rook's entering, Tanya.
You can't do it anymore. Knight takes bishop runs into b2, and that will be game over. Or rook takes pawn, like you're pointing out as well. So there's absolutely no way, but you have to take the pawn, and suddenly that's not a bad bishop anymore. The white rook offside. I mean, the rooks have been the biggest bane in this entire game that Ding has had. One on this side, one on the other, and both struggling.
Yeah, both struggling big time, and that is a nasty check to deal with. The black rook is just going to go pawn hunting in the near future. Ding, though, that's classy from Hans Niemann. He shuts the door on the white rook, which was finally trying to get active. The white rook is just caught in that quadrant, like can't get out. And here we go. Hans dominates the white knight. The bishop controls all of the squares the white knight wants to use, and then he's going to go pawn hunting. And Tanya, it might just be step by step winning now.
Yeah, that one piece dominates the white knight, dominates the white rook as well. And the rook, it was voluntarily put there by Ding. He could have very well just kept it on h1 and found greener pastures for it, but now struggling in this endgame, he's going to try to give some checks. He gives up the knight for activity. He wants to win the g7 pawn, but this cannot be enough.
Ding panics. I think he's about to resign, Tanya. And okay, no, he plays on, but I think he just missed the bishop could block. Maybe if he got the a7 pawn, there were chances. But this is a desperate sacrifice, and yeah, Hans takes it.
Peak performance starts with priority.